Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Transform Your Confidence show. I'm pleased to welcome you to this week's Mindset and Clarity themed episode entitled Cutting Edge Strategies on How to Live on Purpose Every Day and in Every Circumstance. A tall order, but one that my guest today has mastered. Her name is Eliza Wong, and she is the founder of the aptly entitled brand, Always on Purpose. Here's a little bit about her before we say hello. As a certified executive leadership coach, author, speaker, and facilitator, her client base includes Airbnb, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Stanford University, among many, many others. Amy offers transformative leadership development and cutting-edge communication strategies to executives and corporate teams around the world, and has just released a book entitled Living on Purpose, staying on brand, of course. Her approach is to find a conciliant approach to achieve flow and create profound impact through the three lenses of self, relationships, and results to optimize the personal and professional experience of living our best life. You know, something that pop culture has been talking about so much and continues to talk about. And I can't wait to kind of dive into what Amy's perspective is on this. So without further ado, please welcome to the show the fabulous Amy. Super happy to have you on, sweetheart.
Oh, it is such a pleasure to be here today. I am so delighted. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, not as delighted as me and everyone else is going to be once we kind of, dive through all of the nuggets of wisdom that we're going to be chatting with over the next little while. So I want to kind of just dive right in, Amy. I want to do what I always do. I want to start at the beginning by, giving everyone that's watching, listening, and reading this an insight into your professional background pre the launch of your company and any elements from your personal life that lends to, why you decided to launch this brand. And if there's anything that you feel really kind of encapsulates why it's important to even, put yourself out there. Because I feel that, a lot of people are still scared to do that. Like, I have this great idea, I have this great concept, done all this research, and they're scared to put it out there. And I feel that that kind of will lend a little bit into just kind of the communication strategy and prowess that you bring to the table. So let's start, because that sounds like a huge question.
It's like so much goodness.
So much to unpack,
yes.
I'm telling you. Yeah. And I haven't even had my caffeine, so thank God I didn't. Otherwise, we'd be going in all kinds of directions. So let's first start with the preface. Pre-launch of your brand. Talk to me a little bit about, your life and what brought you to that precipice.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, right now, I'm a leadership coach, and I've been doing this for over a decade. And interestingly, now that I'm at this stage in my life, I look back and I recognize that I was really, truly, in essence, a coach, and I've been doing this far longer than I had realized. But where this all started was I, as a kid, very, very fascinated with all things consciousness and existence. And I was enthralled by the bigger conversations, like, who are we? What's going on here? Why do we exist? And my mom and my grandma were really quite metaphysical. And I have such amazing, wonderful, delicious memories of being quite young and sitting at the kitchen table together, talking about how the mind creates and, energy and just consciousness in general. And so that's always been with me. And I remember I was reading Krishnamurti and Wayne Dyer as early as 5th and 6th grade. And so very fascinated by all of these things. And it really just lit me up. I found my happy place in math. And I think, and I'm also a musician. I've been playing piano since age 4. So, they go hand in hand.
Yes.
And through high school and college, I was so passionate about both math and music, and I taught both. So I was teaching math and I was teaching music or piano to students. And oh my gosh, I loved it so much. And it was, yes, it was the transmission of the content, but really what I realized, and I started to pick up on this later on in high school and definitely in college, that I was fascinated by how people were perceiving the content at hand. And I was really good at listening and being able to identify, listening for what it was that people didn't know that they didn't know, what my students didn't know that they didn't know that kept them stuck. And I could hear it in their logic. I could hear it in their argument and their body language. And I got pretty quickly, okay, the things that hold us back, it's not the stuff we don't know. It's the stuff we don't know that we don't know. And so I got really good at, using math and music as a way to hone. And I didn't realize this, hone a skill to be able to access that and then present it to someone so that they could derive their unknowns for themselves and then help usher that path forward. So in college, I, continued to teach math. So I majored in math at Berkeley and taught there as well, and ended up at Sun Microsystems. So I ended up in tech. So the first part of my life, which, gosh, I started interning when I was 18, almost 19, and stayed there till the birth of my first child, who is now going to be 14 next week. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's wild to me. I mean, time goes by so fast. I know, right? She goes by so fast.
Boy or a girl? I have to
boy.
interject a second.
Yeah. So my oldest is a boy. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to be good. Boys are easier during teenage years. So they tell me.
I'm finding it's been delightful so far, because I have to say, he knows he's a butthead and he knows exactly when he's being a butthead. He's like, look, I'm 14. Give me that. And I'm like, all right. You can just be a butthead right now. That's okay.
I love that. Because we were too. Don't forget when we grew up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, I remember being 14. I tell them, I remember. It's tough. It's not easy. Yeah. But so all of this is to say, like, there's just been this incredible becoming, which I didn't realize that at that stage when I was in tech, and I really loved working there, and I ended up in various roles, and I got to exercise many different skill sets. And I would always end up in these positions where I was the go-between between development and end user, translating what was happening. And so that's when I was realizing, like, God, this whole thing around communication is fascinating, because this is where everything's happening, and really got my chops in that, around just that ability to translate. And so then after Aiden was born, I had this massive breakthrough experience. And, it was really quite spiritual, because it hit me so hard that I was not honoring all that I was. And I really wasn't awake to what I was here to do. And it was for no reason other than I just wasn't awake to it, but it hit me. And I was really forced to confront who the heck I was. And, and I explain this in my book, because I think all of us go through these experiences where we have to confront the truth about ourselves. And then, but we're not taught those tools. Like, what do I do when I confront something that I'm not prepared to deal with? So in that wake up moment, I realized, and so going back to like what we're going to talk about, one of the ways that we live on purpose, what hit me in what I reference as a divine download, because I don't know what else to call it. It was so profound. What hit me was, oh my gosh, Amy, you've been going about this whole life thing all wrong. It's not about figuring it out. It's about feeling it out.
Oh my gosh. Can you say that again? Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah.
Oh, it's so powerful, because there's so much, and it's not that sort of cliche, "Ooh, feel it out, dude." It's not that. There's so much to this statement, which is, it's not about figuring it out. It's about feeling it out. Yeah. And
how did you figure that out? Oh my God. I got to ask you.
So this is where it's profound. So this is where I was at my, and I was kind of at a dark night. So here I had Aiden, he's a couple months old. I don't want to go back, but it's not because I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I know I'm not meant to go back to my job. And my job at Sun, it was amazing. I loved it. I was on the up and up. Life was perfect on paper, Raj, perfect on paper. And I had no good reason for not being able to go back. And I had no words for it. And so I was in a crisis of identity. because I
Mhm.
know as a mom now, which was the biggest gift on the face of this earth. And I was so blessed and I was so happy. And so I had this weird experience going on where I was buoyed by this wonder and gratitude, but I'm also just lost because I'm like, who am I?
Right.
And so it was one moment. I had come home. I had just told my beloved boss, who I actually write about in my book. She's amazing. She's still amazing. I still love her. And I told her, I'm not coming back. And when I got home, you know, and my husband has the infant, or Aiden, I go up to my closet and I had this moment where I'm like, I give up. And I literally I threw my hands to the side and I looked up to the ceiling, and I'm in my closet and I'm like, I give up. You show me the way. Now, here's what's interesting. I don't know who I was talking to, because it's not like I pray to some, something, but it was,
Mhm.
what I recognize is it was this profound surrender moment. And I was immediately answered with this. It was almost like an electric shock that hit my head. And every cell of my being reverberated with that, what I just said. It's not about figuring it out. It's about feeling it out.
Oh my gosh.
And in that moment, it's like someone ripped the veil from my perception and I saw clearly. And everything from that moment it was complete transformation in one moment. Yeah.
Your angels, your guides,
Yeah.
the higher version of you.
Yeah.
It could be any or all of the above. But isn't it interesting? You said something that's so important, and that is having the courage to action, what you don't know that you're stepping into, and then asking for the light at the beginning of that tunnel, not at the end, at the beginning of that tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. Oh my gosh. And you couldn't frame up really kind of where this went, because in that statement, it's not about figuring it out. It's about feeling out. It's really about following the feeling. Now, what does that mean? And what are the implications? Well, everything we want, Raj, everything, whether it's to be an amazing podcast host, or to make lots of money, or to, retire early, everything we want it, not for the thing, but we want it because we think it's going to make us feel a certain way. So what we really want is a feeling, but we don't really think about it that way.
Oh my God, I love it. I love everything that you just finished talking about. It begs so many directions for me, but I'm gonna stay on point, because I just want to make sure that I understand the value of what you've come up with, and the value of the book. So let me stay there before I end up going into Raj directions, which we're not going to do. Okay. What? Yeah. Absolutely. I guess instinctually, my next question for you would be, like, what brought about the concept of always on purpose?
Oh,
like clearly this is where we're going.
Oh my gosh. So this is such a magical story. I mean, it's almost not believable, because it's so delightful. So after that divine download, I was changed in a moment. And what came next was, okay, so if then everything I'm after is a feeling, then I have to follow my feeling. So what is it that I'm following? Okay. So what I'm following then is this feeling of that feeling where I feel like it's an expansive, that feeling where you're like, you get the breath knocked into you, not out of you, but like that feeling. So I have to commit to following that, where like my eyebrows raise and my heart feels big and my chest goes out and I'm expansive, where it's the feeling of inspiration. I have to act only on that. And if something comes my way and it feels heavy, if it feels constricted, if it feels like I'm figuring it out, like, this is a good idea, I think I like this strategy, this makes sense. No, I'm not going to do that, because that's figuring. I've got to follow the feeling. The moment I did that, the path became so clear. And so it was at this moment. So I've got this infant. And so what illuminated immediately was, oh my gosh, you love all things quantum physics. You love all things consciousness studies. Like, right. And I haven't been reading these books in years because I was too busy with work. So I picked up a lot of the physicists that I loved, and so I just started voraciously reading, and I am like on cloud 9, and I'm feeling amazing. And I'm, I'm buoyed by that, just being reinvigorated by the content that I love. So check this out. So now I'm like, okay, so the trick is the path of least resistance to the path of most abundance is to follow the inspiration. So it's when I get that, I'm going to trust that it's guiding me somewhere amazing, even if it doesn't make sense. And that's the big key, because there's so much more going on here. So I have to trust that when I feel this, it's actually guiding me somewhere. So I'm sitting and I'm reading a book by a physicist that I really like, and Aiden's napping. And out of the blue, Raj, I'm reading this, and then it hits me, and I'm like, I know nothing about this guy as a human. I just know like his work. I wonder, I gotta look him up. So I literally stop mid-passage, pull up my laptop, and I'm looking, he lives in Cambridge, but an events section. Interesting. So I click on events section and I scroll, and I kid you not, that evening, he is speaking at the Unitarian Church, literally a couple blocks from our house in San Francisco.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so like that right there was this incredible affirmation that, wait, Amy, you're onto something. This is what it means to follow the path of least resistance. Okay. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh my God. So I scroll down a little more, and then I see he's speaking in San Rafael, which isn't far from where I live, at the Science and Non-Duality Conference, like in the next couple of months. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I got that feeling again. So that's what I committed to following, was that, that feeling like, and so I'm like, what is this conference? So I look the conference up, and I'm reading through it, and I get that feeling, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to be here. But then I'm like, wait, but am I the audience? I mean, it looks like there's a ton of scientists and a ton of researchers and a ton of therapists. And I'm like, I'm not any of those. So I'm like, maybe I'm not the right audience. So then I email the organizer, the founder of the conference. And I'm like, so hi, you don't know me, but I'm a new mom. I stumbled upon your conference. I'm just curious, am I your audience? I'm super enthralled by this. He got right back to me. His name's Maurizio Bonazzo, beautiful man, him and his wife. They now have the big Science and Non-Duality Conference. He emailed me right back. And he's like, oh my gosh, of course. You know what? Let me comp your ticket. I want you to be my special guest. Bring your baby. I was so honored and touched. But anyway, so I went, and that's where the cascade started. So then I went there, and then the people I met, and then the subjects, that feeling. And so it was so quick that all of a sudden the path just illuminated. I kept following that feeling. And then all of a sudden, transpersonal psychology kept popping up. Oh, that feeling. Wait, what is this? And so I go, I got to study this. And so next thing I know, I'm getting my master's in transpersonal psychology. And now next thing I know, coaching, what's this? I had no idea about this field. Well, little did I know that math and transpersonal psychology together lend itself perfectly for coaching, right? And so it's do. So that is really how it very, very quickly, but very organically emerged, by following the inspiration, following the feeling, not by following a strategy. Because if I were to have told anybody what I was up to from my past life, son, they would have been like, what are you smoking? What are you doing? And thank goodness I have an amazing husband who just trusts me completely. And he's like, you know what? I 100%, I support you. Yes, do it. Okay, I don't get what you're going to study, and I don't get that you're not licensed for anything, but whatever, like if that's what you want to do, trust me, it's going to work out. And it did. But so the concept of always on purpose, again, it was one of those magical synchronistic, it hit me. That's it. And and I feel like kind of my trajectory has been a series of these amazing synchronistic moments that feel almost unbelievable, but it's not unbelievable when you truly commit to following that feeling, which is hard because we have been trained to follow the formula. Do what you're told, make people happy, make lots of money, and then you'll be happy. Right? And then but it doesn't work that way. So It's been, so that's really where Always on Purpose. Now that happened in 2010. And again, it's continued to just take off in ways that are really wonderful.
So let me ask you this. You talk about self, relationships, and results.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what that means? Especially since these three are kind of the core for your belief system, through all the research you've done, through what you've put together for people, the journey you take people on, so that they can get personal and professional enlightenment in their life, for want of a better word, since we're in that realm of discussion. Talk to us all about that a little bit. So people who aren't kind of tapped into maybe the spiritual side of themselves, or maybe don't understand that there are these kind of subliminal links between a lot of the things that we go through and that we feel are actually on purpose, even though we may not feel they are in the conventional sense of what we've been taught to be, the links in our life.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for this question. I refer to this as what I call the fundamentals of thriving. And the best way to describe this is to use the metaphor of a big, beautiful oak tree. And, when folks come to coaching, it's because they want to take their life to the next level. They want to take themselves to the next level. They want to achieve something. They want to break through into, that potential they know that they have. And what it tends to feel and look like for a lot of people is if they think about themselves as a tree, it tends to just like, okay, well, what does this look like? What would that look like? And so we want to end up looking like this amazing, thriving oak tree where it's just this beautiful canopy. And so the thinking tends to be, well, let me just prune all the leaves and make it look pretty. And so a lot of approaches to self-improvement are, what are the behavior change? Like what are the tweaks I need to make to kind of step into that change? What are the behavior changes? What are the habit changes? And so that to me is not a full picture, because if you want a genuinely thriving, beautiful tree, you can't just prune the leaves. You got to look at the whole system. Mm-hmm. And so what I do with folks is, okay, well, so if you got this whole tree, if that's you, then we have to make sure that the roots are being watered and that you've got a stable base from which you can grow and thrive. Now that represents the relationship you have with yourself, because that is absolutely everything. And this is so fundamental, Raj. And it's really quite eye-opening to folks, because it feels kind of cliche. The relationship I have with myself, self-love. Right. Like we get it, but do we actually really get it? Do we know what that means? Most of us don't. And the way I like to put this is, okay, the way you regard yourself, whatever belief you have about who you are, how good enough you are, how complete you are, how smart you are, whatever it might be, that self-perception forms the primary lens that you now look out through to the world. So the world that you see out there and what you see is that's not objective. That is completely colored by this lens that is formed by the relationship you have with yourself. And so, like I could give you so many examples, but just for brevity here, that relationship with self truly does impact every aspect of your experience. And we don't really think about it that way. Yes. But if we genuinely want to thrive, we have to take a look at this, because guess what? We get to pick what that relationship is. We get to choose. And a lot of us, one, don't recognize that we're at choice, and two, don't know how to exercise that choice. So that's the first part of really looking at this bigger model. The second is relationships. So here, now we've got the trunk in relationship and its placement to everything else. Relationships are everything too, because we don't exist in a vacuum. We don't create impact in a vacuum. It is all completely dependent upon our relationships with others. And in fact, and I talk about this in the book, and we all kind of know this, we're hardwired for connection and belonging. And we are hardwired to be social creatures. So we have to factor in this relationship aspect. And so in my work, in addition to this deeper perceptual stuff, I am kind of known as an expert, or at least someone who's super passionate about all things communication, because communication is where relationships exist. It's in that exchange between you and me. And so all things conversational intelligence, neuroscience of trust, to, as you know, we could get as specific as public speaking, pitching, presentation skills. All of that really falls within my wheelhouse when I'm also doing coaching. So we got to look at that, because that's where the medium in which everything happens. And then we've got the results. Now that's the canopy, right? So these are the things that we tend to see. So that's someone's confidence or executive presence or authenticity, their values, their behaviors, their patterns. And so, yeah, and we need to address that too. So that's just your typical realm of coaching. It's like, okay, well, what changes do we need to make? How do we want to make them? How do you want to keep yourself accountable? What shifts have to happen at the doing level? So that's the doing level. The roots is the being level. And this is in relationship with others. Now, when we look at that whole system and we find, and we look for the patterns, and we essentially achieve congruency and make coherent this vision we have for ourselves and what's true, that's when all of a sudden, oh my gosh, my state of being is like, this is amazing. That's thriving. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like the first word on your website in big, bold, white writing. I love it.
Yes, it is.
So if anyone doesn't know what Amy's brand is about, it is all the things that it takes for you to thrive within the ideology of multifaceted communications, through all the research and all the experiential life journey that she's lived as well. I want to ask you this, Amy, what kinds of transformations, for those people who don't quite get it, and what I want to bring them to where we're at with this conversation.
Sure.
So what kinds of transformations have you seen happen that best illustrate how impactful going through this transformation journey is? Like, can you maybe give us one example that just really always kind of comes up for you that will help people kind of bridge that gap between having first come across this idea? Okay, I get it. I get how this can help me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go back to this idea that everything that we want is because we want it because we think it's going to make us feel a certain way. And so I'm pretty clear, and this is an opinion, but I'm pretty clear that all of us want a state of freedom, peace of mind, fulfillment, and joy. And we can add in a bunch of other stuff in there, but everybody comes to me because they want to feel at peace with what they're up to in the world. They want to feel complete with who they are and what they're creating. And, you know, for most folks, particularly the ambitious, driven professionals, we get addicted to this hyper-achieving, I got to keep going because this set of conditions is just not enough. I need the next, I need the promotion. I need the next, I need to own my own business. And so we don't know how to be at peace with what is. We want to keep going. And so
why are you describing me, Amy?
Well, you know, it's everyone. I think it's again, it has to do with our educational system. I think it's what we get indoctrinated into. It's like, follow the formula and then you're going to be happy. And so we keep placing our happiness outside of ourselves, thinking it's going to be in the final set of conditions, you know, that we accumulate. But, you know, so considering that, you know, I'm thinking of, gosh, I have so many amazing examples, but I'll keep it kind of general. You know, you've got a senior leader, you've got an executive, or anyone who initially comes and says, I want to feel like I've arrived. I want to feel like I want to have a seat at the table. I want to feel like my voice matters. I want to know that I'm having impact. I want to really leave a legacy here. I want to be super successful because I'm not quite where I want to be. Okay, so that's the initial ask. And so in working together, what we start to recognize is that they're trying to fill a hole that can't be filled with stuff. but they don't know that. They're trying to fill a hole that has everything to do with a relationship they have with themselves. And so fundamentally, it starts with, well, do you know yourself as whole and complete? Or are you holding on to this idea that you're lacking in some way, that you're not as good as the others, that you're not as competent as people think? So this is where imposter syndrome comes from, or we talk about that quite a bit. And so it first starts with, well, what is this relationship I have with myself? And I guarantee you 100% of the time, our need to continually achieve stuff is this fallacy. It's this false thinking that when I finally go public, let's say, I'm going to be free. I'm going to be free from the inner opposition that plagues me about how I haven't arrived, about how I'm not good enough, about how I'm not as cool as those people. I'll be finally free to just be present and enjoy my kids and enjoy my spouse. But that's not true. Well, essentially what we're seeking is this wholeness within ourselves. Because here's a great example. Have you ever looked at a 2-year-old or a 3, maybe even a 3 or 4-year-old? And those, watching children at that age, isn't it the most delightful thing?
It really is.
And here's why. Because here they are at their stage in development. They know themselves as unconditionally whole and complete. They don't have this self-perception of, I'm not good enough, I'm of lack, I'm incompetent, I'm a loser, I'm not lovable. They don't have that. They haven't developed that yet. So with this unconditional knowing of completeness, now they have, when they know that, they don't have, their lens isn't conditional. So when they look out at the world, stuff is just stuff. It's not proof that they're not good enough. Do you get that? This is so important. If you know yourself as unconditionally whole and complete, the stuff out there is not proof that you're not enough. But if you are worried that you're not good enough, then everything out there is evidence for or against being good enough. And so you are free. That is the freedom people want, is that freedom for stuff to just be stuff. So, we look at these children and they can dance and sing with boogers in their nose, and they're dressed all funny, and they just don't care because they are not worried about other people's judgment, because they know themselves as whole and complete. Now, I'm not advocating for us to go and sing with boogers in our nose and dress funny, but as adults, we want that state of freedom back. And we think that it's in achieving the stuff that's finally going to get us to that place. But that's the trap, because the more you keep achieving, the more and more you're solidifying this relationship of lack. Anyway, there's so much to this conversation.
Oh my God.
And I break it down in the book really logically. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's where we're going to go next. But before we do, I want to kind of close this part off by asking you if anybody wants to work with you, wants to work through some of the things that you have to offer here. Where are we sending them to?
Yeah. Well, so I definitely recommend reading the book, because the book is going back to, I think, your original question, where'd the book come from? So I knew exactly what this book needed to be in 2014, but I also knew I wasn't ready to put it in book form, because I was still accumulating the research and the stories and the client stories. But it is such a comprehensive roadmap, and it's step-by-step, kind of taking people through what I'm talking about here with this, the self-relationship results. Now, I actually don't reference the fundamentals of thriving in the book. I'm simply going by these 5 choices, because on its own, these 5 choices are independent. And if you take any one of them on, amazing. If you take all 5, incredible. So it's kind of
challenging me now. I need to take all 5 on. Tell me what they are.
I will. Yeah. And so I'd say read the book, because the book is at the heart of it is a way to integrate much of the teachings and the work that I do with clients on a one-on-one basis. Now, to work, I primarily I'm working a lot with organizations, and I work with leaders and teams. And so, so for companies, I'll come in and I'll work with their leadership teams to really transform all aspects of their ability to connect, navigate, and then thrive with one another. And because it starts with the roots, and then it goes outward. But
Absolutely.
there are many other options. And so I always encourage people to reach out. So going to my website, alwaysonpurpose.com, and taking a look, and then sending an inquiry is also really
perfect. So that's what you heard it right here, guys.
Yeah.
You just got to go to the website, alwaysonpurpose.com. Did I get that right?
That's right. That is
okay.
Right. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's all there. The ecosystem is all there, guys. Go check it out. I really encourage you to do so, because I've been there, and that's what intrigued me to have this conversation with Amy. So without further ado, we've got to dive right into that book. My first question, I got to ask you this, because I'm really curious. There it is, guys. For anyone that is watching this, take a look. That's the cover. And I love that you have the flower at the bottom that Saraswati Mataji always sits on in Hinduism, by the way.
Oh,
and she is, and she is the goddess of knowledge.
Oh, I love that.
Wisdom.
I love
that. So you didn't even know you did that, but you
I did not know that. Well, and here's what's an amazing story. So my amazing graphic designer developed this in 2010. So my logo, I've had this, and this has been just fundamental to Always on Purpose. And I didn't recognize this until after I got my book published, that this is so funny. So the book is 5 deliberate choices to realize fulfillment and joy. There are 5 petals on this. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Synchronous.
Does 5 show up? I'm going a bit off track, but I got to ask you this. Does 5, the number 5, show up for you in different aspects of your life?
No.
Is there a 5 in your numerology somewhere?
You know what? I wish I knew that answer. I don't.
Okay, go find out, because I'm curious. Let me know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing really significant about the number 5. And it's funny, because I originally had more choices that I was going to break down, because I thought once you sit down and start writing your book, what you think it's going to be actually ends up being quite different than what you thought it was going to be. And that's the beautiful part of it. And I didn't originally sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write this book about 5 choices. It was going to be more than that. And it was in that year-long process of writing the book that actually there's really only 5 here. And that's what this is absolutely needs to be. So it was really quite organic.
I love it. And can you tell everybody what those 5 aspects are? And then I want to go back to the thing that I was curious about. But first, since we're here, let's just tell everyone, what are the 5?
Got it. Okay, 1 through 5. The first one you heard, which is feel it out, don't figure it out. The second one, and this is everyone's favorite, is there is no way things or you should be, period. So the title of the chapter, I love this so much. Everyone does. The title is called I Should You Not.
I love that.
I thought it was super clever. And then the third choice is that it's always working out for you. Always. Mm-hmm. And there's so much wisdom in that one. The fourth is you are already whole and complete. Yeah. So that speaks to kind of what we were talking about. We're trying to achieve conditions and change conditions and accumulate proof in order to find that completeness. But really the biggest perceptual shift is just to decide, to choose to know that you're already whole and complete. And then here, the big one, the kicker, is you have to choose to know, not believe, your worth. And so in this one, I dive into the very profound difference between believing and knowing, and what shifts when you get the difference, and then how you're able to unlock true freedom when you can shift from believing to knowing. So that's a fun conversation. So all 5 really work together in this incredibly, in a wonderful way. But again, any one of these on its own can be pretty powerful.
Oh my gosh. So the thing that I wanted to ask you, the curious thing is, and it's just so small that it almost sounds insignificant after what you've just finished telling us, that's so profound. And it's this. So, Living on Purpose is the title of your book.
Yeah.
But the title of your brand is Always on Purpose.
Yes.
Me. Yeah, it's going to.
So here's the truth. I really wanted the book to be called Always on Purpose. And the publisher was like, no, we don't think it's that great. We should name it. And so they were like, it's not that it's bad, but it's not as clear about what the book's about. Let's come up with a different title. And I was like, oh, I really want it to be Always on Purpose, but okay, I'll trust you. So we went through a retitling process. And
Mhm.
it was either going to be, and this actually, I'm glad we didn't go with this. I thought it was just catchy, the purpose paradigm or living on
Mhm.
purpose. And so this actually, if I were to say the purpose paradigm, it kind of implies purpose in a way that I'm not using purpose. And so it needs to be on purpose, which is different than purpose as we tend to think about it. So anyway, so that's where we landed on living on purpose. But I'm really excited about that, Raj, because
Mhm. Mhm.
I know what book number 2 is, and that's leading on purpose, because this is the more
Mhm.
general living. And so now book number 2, which I'm working, the wheels are turning. Now I'm able to do that. And so now everybody's coming to me, Amy, can you do a parenting on purpose? Can you do a loving on purpose? Can you?
Oh my gosh, girl, you need to do all this, because it all comes back round to this whole kind of ambiguous term that we all know, which is called communications, right? It all comes back to that, right? I love it.
Yeah.
And I love the whole idea around the tree and how you need to look at the tree that you are. I love that you talked about that.
Yeah.
I love that you are very, oh my gosh, pun intended, on purpose with the words of the titles of your 5 concepts in the book.
Oh,
Like those titles alone make me want to read this book. And I have to say this because I'm such a wordsmith myself. Words are everything to me.
Oh, words create worlds.
Yes.
I mean, our language is what things arise due to the words that we say, we think. Oh my gosh, I am 100% with you. And I'm such a stickler with this, especially with my kids. I'm like, what did you just say to yourself? Wait, hold on. Back that up. What did you just say? Let's come up with something else. That's not empowering at all. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So
I'm right there with you.
So I want to ask you this. What do you hope that people will get out of reading and working through your book? Like what's your big thing?
I'm just going to go with what hit me right now. Have you heard the quote, Viktor Frankl's quote? I must say this quote 3 times in a week, which is, so Viktor Frankl was the Austrian psychologist, Holocaust survivor, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And his quote is this: between stimulus and response, there is space. And in that space lies our ability to choose our response. And in our choice lies our freedom and our growth. And
wow,
what I love about that quote is it captures so perfectly this superpower of choice that we all have, but we forget. And it's easy to, because the outside world's very compelling. And so I use this metaphor where, how, like, if you're done with today's Friday, let's say it's been a long day, you sit down, you turn on the TV because you just want to chill out. Now let's imagine it's before streaming, and so do you remember cable back in the day? And so you turn on the TV and whatever the TV's on, it's the channel it was on, that's what's on. Okay. Yes. So like that.
I go back as far as black and white TV. Okay.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm right. Yes. Okay. So I know we're on the same page here. Well, with this whole thing where when we sit down to watch TV, if we turn on the TV and up pops, say, horror, and we don't want to watch horror, what do? Well, we change the channel because we know that doesn't make us feel good. And so we do this with the TV, but yet we don't do this with our own mindset, our own lens, our own inner dialogue. And we feel, and it's so essentially it's, so what we tend to live is like sitting down, turning on horror and going, oh, I'm feeling so crappy today. Oh, I can't do it. And we're stuck on that channel. We forget that we have a remote control. And so what I'm hoping that this book illuminates for folks is that we are empowered with this amazing thing called choice. And it's way more profound than we think. And it's actually a lot more simple than we realize. And, through this book, I present a lot of large logic in order to help people get to that place where they can access choice. Because it's one thing to know you have a choice. It's another to exercise it. And I'm very clear about the difference because I know that that's a big hang up for folks. And so in this book, I made it a huge part of the book to make choice accessible, make a different choice accessible, the choice that serves us. Yeah.
I love everything about that. Amy, who's the book for?
It's for you, Raj.
It's definitely for me. I want a signed copy.
Oh, I'm popping one in the mail this evening. You got it. You got
love it.
So the book is for, as it is, as is true for any book, it's not for everybody.
Right.
What is clear about this book, it's for I always say it's for the, ambitious, growth-oriented individual who is somewhat self-aware, who is aware that it could be better. It could be, I'm searching for something, and I'm going about it probably in a not ideal way. And so this book is for that person who genuinely wants to take their life to the next level, but gets that how they're going about it probably isn't going to get them there, but they don't quite know what to do about that. Mm-hmm. And it's also for the individual who is willing to take responsibility for their life, right? It's the individual that says, I'm the one that's responsible for the quality of my experience, which is due to the mindset that I hold. And so I'm willing to shift at that level. Now, there has to be a willingness there. And when that's there and you come across this book, I believe magic can happen.
Mm-hmm. I feel that this book is for everyone out there who thinks that this book is not for them. I really do. I feel that, this book is obviously for someone like me, because I'm perpetually on, the journey of self-enlightenment, and whatever that may mean as a definition for me changes as I go through life, such as the experience of life, right? But I honestly feel that the people that will have the biggest breakthroughs, the biggest aha moments, the biggest, that angst that you were talking about earlier, that I think those people are going to be the ones that absolutely think that they don't need this book. So if you're that person and you're feeling like, oh my God, this just sounds like another woo-woo attempt at woo-wooing my life, right? Yeah. Go get the book. And Amy, where can they go grab it? Let's tell everyone right now.
That. And, and to be fair, like woo-woo, sure. But, I do provide a fair amount of research, and, I want to back up a lot of what I'm saying. So I bring that.
And that part of your brain is clearly, obviously, very well developed. The math, right. The music, the degrees, everything. So right. I don't think anyone can in any way not know that this is going to come fully backed up.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, so where can they grab the book?
Yes. So you can get the book on Amazon. It's an Amazon bestseller, which is amazing, which I'm super excited about. Yeah. It just was released Tuesday, and it's been doing so well. Yeah. It was released on Tuesday. So this is such a timely conversation.
Yeah. And Amazon, actually, I'm just going to tell everyone, I'm going to have you hold that a second, guys. I'm recording this with Amy, the Tuesday before the Wednesday that we're launching this. So this is uber, right now in your lives. So go and grab this book. Let's make it a bestseller on all kinds of other lists as well. We want to do that. Everybody needs this. And I feel that, as adults, we can go in and we can read this and kind of unpack what's happening with us and how we're relating to these 5 different, for want of a better word, paradigm shifts. But I feel that there's also a diluted version of this that can be translated over to our kids. Like we can kind of already start training our kids into learning how to put self first and what that needs to look like.
You are making my heart sing, Raj. I mean, there is no more important question or conversation than starting as early as we can to help our little ones establish an authentic, honest, truthful relationship with themselves, that they are already whole and complete. Because when we do that, and more of our children know that, the world really genuinely does start to become a healed place. I think about this all the time. Absolutely. Yeah.
So do I. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we can get the book on Amazon, and I would say it's on all bookstores available. So, you can walk into any bookstore and
Perfect. And grab it, whether it's digital. And let me just ask you, so hardback, paperback, audio, like all
so
of the
Kindle,
above?
so audiobook, and I got to narrate.
Oh
And the
my
best
gosh.
part, okay, so
you're going to
here's
hear
a
this
teaser.
lady's voice, so you know it's going to be like super energetic, super kind of, feeling everything, which is what the whole conversation today has been about.
Right.
I love it.
Feeling it. Well, the best part, so little teaser here, chapter 13, I interview a client of mine because she's been through this process. So to answer that question you had earlier, what happens when you do this? It's a whole interview between her and me about what's life like now that you've done this. And so when we were getting ready to narrate this, I was narrating this book, I thought, wait a minute, how am I going to do two voices? I should just have Megan come and read her part. And so I told them that, and they were like, we've never done that before. Like, really? You haven't done that? And they're like, well, let's do it. So chapter 13, it's literally a conversation between, and it's her voice. It's Megan comes in and she reads it. So it's the two of us in chapter 13. And so it's
that
delightful.
That is so palpable.
Yeah.
That's so palpable.
So
and
fun.
it's so real. Like there's such a realness to what you just shared there, that chapter alone is one that I need to go listen to, because I conversations, better way to authenticate a person's belief system than hearing someone who went through the system. Yeah. So it's really important that people do really kind of, the audio. I think people need to get the audio as well as the written version, because, all version has a different sense and feeling that you get around than you do when you sit there and read. And the read is important. I always say this, always get both. Yeah. The read is important because you can go in there and underline, and you can kind of make notes and all that lovely stuff.
Agreed. And I do have a lot of charts, and in my book, so the hardback or the hardcover, I do have charts and some graphs, and there's some lovely visuals. So that's really helpful. The audio version, I'm very excited about, just released yesterday, and the Kindle version is available too.
Oh my gosh, I'm so super excited. So for anyone out there who, after this conversation, Amy, who's sitting on the fence of their life, what would you say to them?
Oh, get excited, because as uncomfortable as that feels, that just means you're on the edge of transformation. And that means that you are on the brink of growth. And so rather than meet this moment with anxiety, get excited that change is about to happen. And if you're ready for the tools for change in order to harness that growth and truly live a life on purpose with meaning and fulfillment and joy, then grab the books. It'll help you.
Absolutely. And, I feel that the book would be a great lead magnet into the ecosystem that is Amy's world, for you to then, dive into maybe working with her, maybe kind of, getting to that next level that you need to get if you feel that you need assistance to be able to walk across that bridge. I really do believe that that's where you need to go. And again, Amy, give everyone your website address.
Yes. So my website is alwaysonpurpose.com.
Brilliant.
And I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn. That's really the only social platform I'm on. So LinkedIn, it's Amy Eliza Wong, if anyone wants to follow me there.
Perfect. Hang out with you on social and see what you're up to. That sounds fabulous. So definitely, I encourage everyone to just go hop on over there. And if you don't have a LinkedIn account, now you have a reason to have one.
That's right.
So Amy, is there anything that we haven't touched upon today that you feel people need to know about today's topic? So let's bring us back round full circle. And the topic is cutting edge strategies on how to live on purpose every day and in every circumstance.
Oh my goodness. There is so much I would want to share in a brief moment, but I'll leave it with this just because it's going to be resonant with what we have been talking about. Mm-hmm. If we really want to start living on purpose, we can start with the question, what would be true right now? And what would be possible right now if I genuinely knew myself to be totally unconditionally whole and complete? It's like, what changes? And when you confront that question authentically, you'll find that all of a sudden your perception shifts a little bit. Fear is different. There really is no fear. Your thought, how you process something, how you might consider something, the options, the world starts to change a little bit. It's subtle, but it's really profound. And this might sound, touchy-feely woo-woo, but this relationship we have with ourselves is so fundamental to the quality of our experience. I can't stress that enough. So if we want to get to the heart of really, truly claiming the life we were born to live and live on purpose, we got to get right to the heart of the engine that gives rise to our reality. And that is what we can, how we relate to our own selves. So again, the question is, what would be possible if I knew right now in this moment, if I truly were whole and complete?
Something to really, really sit with, guys. I love everything about that. And I've just got one final thing that I want to ask you, Amy, and it's this. Any final words you'd like to leave everyone watching, listening, and reading this? Perhaps some words of inspiration that you haven't already shared, and you've shared an abundance of it today. Maybe something from your life's journey that you learned that, it really is important for people to know.
Oh, this is a big one. This came up earlier today. It comes up all the time. But, I had mentioned growth. We're always growing, whether we like it or not. And it's the experiences that we are having that are catalyzing our growth in every moment. We tend to want to just focus on the stuff that we want, like the stuff we were planning for. Like I went off for this certification program. So the growth that the stuff that we want in our lives, we tend to just focus on that. So really what I want to leave with is there's a whole category of stuff that's unwanted. And so I tend to talk about this. We either grow by accident, which is the stuff we didn't want, and grow on purpose. And so, a lot of my work is focusing on how can we embrace the stuff that's growth by accident? And how do we relate to, and excuse my language, the shit of life? Because look, life's going to shit on you. That's just, stuff is going to happen. Always. There is going to be stuff that you cannot plan for. There is going to be contrast in our lives. There are going to be traumas and tragedies and mistakes and regrets and failures. That's just how it goes. And I believe it's because we're in a universe of duality. That's just how we operate. But if we continue to push against the stuff we don't want and make it wrong, we eat up so much of our life force, and we don't extract the amazing gifts that come from the contrast. And so, I would say, as words of wisdom, I always say, if you can decide that everything's working out for you, when that stuff hits you, which it will, it's to always say, what's the gift in this? How is this actually contributing to my growth? How might this be on purpose for my future vision that I'm intending to live into? Because, how many times have we been in our now moment and looked back and go, that was horrible, but if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here. So why not do that in our current state in a shit moment and be like, wait a minute, you know what? It's a shit moment, but what if this is fertilizer? It's manure and it's seeding that. So
I love that.
Yeah. And so it's really how, there's a big opportunity in just letting things be as they are and committing to treating it as fertilizer instead of shit. Yeah.
Living on purpose, guys. So important. So much has been unpacked today. Amy, you are such a gem. You're a rock star, and I flipping love you. And you got to come back.
Oh, I'm coming back. I can't wait. You are amazing, Raj. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I cannot wait for our next conversation.
I can't either, sweetheart. And really, that second book and all the others that are going to come from it, it all needs to happen. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, I really hope you got some real value from today's show, and will share it with everyone you know who you feel needs to get today's learnings. And in my book, it's absolutely everyone that you care about. I also hope that you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel at the Open Chest Confidence Academy so that you never miss an episode. And our episodes come out every single Wednesday. So please go there and, hit that bell. Make sure that you never miss an episode. And even if it's an episode that maybe isn't what you're looking to look at, there could be someone in your life or your network that really needs to listen, hear, or read that. So mark that, guys. And I'll see you next week for another invaluable episode packed with insights and learnings like we had today with Amy to help empower your work, your life, and your spirit. Take care, guys. I love you.